Oh, I see. So it's super bad for us, the prince, to run around playing card games, but ancient Egyptian Seto, he can just run around playing card games all he wants, even though he's a high mage. Fucking hate being royalty, hate all these expectations. I didn't ask for any of this bullshit. Just want to play fucking card games. Let's go duel Jono, which is almost Joey's Japanese name. Almost. Hey, not Joey, I got a question. How come if we have this really fucked up hairdo, we don't look like the prince still? Is it actually possible to change our hairdo? Because that doesn't seem likely. Where would you even put it? Where would you even put all this hair, Joey? Not Joey. Are we dueling now? I guess we're dueling now. So I have some bad news. Jono's deck is just as shitty as Teia's deck. You might figure that because he came after Villager 2 and 3, he might have some 1000 defense or attack cards, or maybe pull out a Flame Swordsman for a real surprise. That'd be a little overpowered for this early in the game, but, you know, something like that. But no. His deck is exactly as shitty as Teia's. It's hard to find a difference between them, really. Mystic Horseman has one trippy-ass background. Let's see what his 3D animation looks like. I really shouldn't be complaining about the difficulty because while it's reasonable enough here, it ramps up the bullshit levels pretty quickly in the later portions of the game, as we discussed. I mean, I guess it's technically still a problem right now that Jono's deck is so shitty, but it's not nearly as big a problem as the future decks being so fucking ridiculously overpowered. It's not even like the core gameplay is bad. There are good ideas here, it's just... who balanced this? There's a lot of shit to like about this alternate take on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Universe, I think. There's a lot of really cool shit in here to unpack. And the story isn't too bad either. It has a nice atmosphere to it. That leitmotif musical sting they use in the intro, that fucking kicks ass. Got beaten up by fungi. To be fair, a lot of people get beaten up by fungi. Some people die from confrontations with fungi. So we shouldn't be making fun of that fucker. Anyway, there's a lot of shit about this alternate take on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Universe to appreciate, but there's a lot of shit wrong with it too. Not that there isn't shit wrong with normal Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, basic shit about the world building is really fucked up. It was established by Simon that this card game is for commoners and it's a fun pastime. It's not something to take seriously. But every confrontation in this game is done via this dumbass card game. You know, like when you're fighting for your life, you do it with this dumbass card game. So Simon should actually be encouraging us to do this. Maybe there's some sort of power play going on here. Simon's trying to keep us away from understanding the true power of the heart of the card so that way he can take us over. You know, can keep us under his wing all tucked away and beat the shit out of us when he makes a grab for the throne. Except no, the game doesn't go there. It's just really shitty world building. So this first battle against Seto can actually be kinda difficult, depending on which starter deck you get. If you can't summon any monsters with more than 1,200 attack power, you might get fucked here, because Seto can summon and fuse monsters with over 1,300 attack. Or exactly 1,300 attack, it depends. It's kind of rare for him to do that, but it can happen. But most of the normal monsters he sets really fucking suck. It can just make for a nasty surprise when you think he's a complete pushover because you've played the game before, and then you get fucked because he summons a really strong monster out of nowhere. That was completely unnecessary, but I wanted to do it anyway. You know, I think I just figured shit out. I think the reason you get a game over for losing any duel, except for the one duel you need to progress the story, is because Yami is the king of games. He's not supposed to lose, period, at anything ever. That makes sense, right? Like, the only time he was ever beaten fairly in a duel in the anime, it was a really fucking big deal. Like, they made a huge deal out of it. Granted, the duel that we need to progress the story, we're beaten fairly then too. Maybe I'm just reaching too hard here to justify the fact that you get a fucking game over for losing duels like this. I get that you want there to be some sort of punishment, but can't you just let the player redo the duel instead of sending them back to their last save point like an asshole? If we lose our friendly duel against Jonah or Atea, do we get sent to the Shadow Realm? Because they didn't get sent to the Shadow Realm, and we're the one with the Millennium Puzzle here. Maybe it's some kind of weird reverse thing where you can only get sent to the Shadow Realm if you have a Millennium item? Like it's a curse or some shit? Why didn't they include any of this shit I'm making up in the game? Seriously, just throw a couple of extra lines of dialogue in to justify this bullshit and I'd be a lot more impressed. You know, it's depressing how this game is still somewhat popular and people seem to have fond memories of it. Forbidden memories of it, you could say. But that's not nearly as depressing as the thought of someone really enjoying False-Bound Kingdom. That's also a game with really cool ideas and nothing wrong in the core gameplay that completely fucks the player over in other ways. What is it with Konami of Japan and doing that to people? Specifically with Yu-Gi-Oh! Too. You know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Games exist that aren't bullshit, but they usually either completely emulate the real-life TCG or aren't made by Konami of Japan. I don't understand what's wrong with Konami of Japan, I really don't. Alright, get your asses ready for some long-ass cutscenes, because we got those coming up right now. So this is the duel we're supposed to lose to progress the story. He starts with a field power bonus, which is ridiculous, and he summons monsters with over 3,000 attack. But here's the thing. It's still technically possible to beat him if you get really lucky, and he bottom decks all those good monsters. I've done it before using Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon. It's still possible to beat him in the story. But if you do that, he just duels you again. So even if you manage to do the impossible, the game's just like, good job, now do it again. We didn't expect this. Alright, since we have to lose anyway, let's attack in 3D. You know, it's this game's presentation that kept suckering me back into playing it again. Kind of like the other really shitty Yu-Gi-Oh games with great stories and atmosphere, like Chef of Destruction. Chef of Destruction has so much good shit going for it in the story, like you wouldn't believe. But it's just such an evil game. I feel like it was a prank played on the people who played it, you know? But the art team and the story team knew what they were doing.